What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about The Woman King. Directed by Gina Prince-Bythewood and starring people like Viola, Lashana, Lynch, Sheila Ateem, Thuso, Mdebu, and John Boyega, this is a movie that centers on the very unique woman army of the Kingdom of Dahomey. What's going on, everybody? If you're new here to the channel, my name is Anthony, and if you're a regular, welcome back. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I definitely want to welcome you to do so and hit that like button, as we're going to be talking about a brand new film here today starring Viola Davis as the lead character, and this film is called The Woman King. Like I mentioned in the intro, it does focus on a very unique woman army that was part of the Kingdom of Dahomey, and yeah, overall, this is a really interesting film. Going into it, I had heard some controversy around the fact that in real life, these women were actually part of this kingdom that actually did trade off black individuals into slavery, their own kind into slavery. So there was some controversy from some that this movie may not depict that, and that this movie was going to be this story about these, black strong women who saved the slaves, whereas in reality they were actually giving slaves away. And I won't get too deep into what actually happens in this movie for the sake of spoilers, but I will say that that is touched on here in the film, and I think it was handled well. With that said, I don't know all of the history around the real individuals or the real events that this is inspired on, so I do want to mention that so you know that my review is coming more as a movie fan and less so as somebody who's trying to compare this to the actual historical events. With that said, though, again, it is tackled in this movie, and I think that they make sense of it for the most part. Again, I don't know the historical accuracy of it, but I feel like, again, it's something I should have mentioned. Beyond that, though, as a movie, I found this to be a really good time at the theater. If I had to just start off with the things that I wasn't crazy about, I would say that there were a couple of moments where some of our main actors, who are clearly not African actors, had some, moments where their accent wasn't 100% authentic sounding, where it felt like their normal accents were starting to slip through. And outside of that, I would say my other biggest gripes are a couple of moments that maybe I would have trimmed down, some slow moments, and a couple of moments where I found myself being just a little bit bored. Beyond that, though, I found this movie to be genuinely entertaining, exciting, engaging, and I found myself really wrapped in what was going on. And by the time I got to the very end, I just found myself very satisfied with the way that this movie played out. And this is a movie with stakes and a lot of really serious moments that happen. There's trauma, there's tragedy, there's character loss. But what's really great about this film on top of that is that it takes this story of, a lot of prejudiced people who are in the slave trade game, and creates this revenge tale that has a very satisfying element to it. I can't lie, it's badass to watch a bunch of strong-ass African women fucking up a bunch of racist, prejudiced people who just want to put people into slavery. Without a doubt, there was a huge, satisfying element of watching this movie to see horrible people getting their comeuppance. But beyond it being a satisfying movie, I think that it really earned that by the time you get to the end, with a lot of the loss and the tragedy and the character development it had done up to that point. Even though I mentioned earlier that I think one of my criticisms would be that I found it to be a little bit slower than I would like it to have been in some of the parts of the film, and there's a little bit of fat I feel could have been trimmed out. I will argue, though, that I feel that the film does do a good job of utilizing any of those slow moments and that downtime to really flesh out our characters. The worst thing is when you watch a movie that has a lot of downtime or slow moments or scenes that just feel like unnecessary in the film and ultimately don't really serve the movie. But when you have a movie like this that does have slower moments, that does have things that bring the pacing down, that really utilizes that time to flesh out its characters, it really makes the films that have unnecessary scenes really stand out. And I think that this film, for me, was one of those movies where I was just engaged from beginning to end. As somebody who knows when I'm watching a movie now, especially if it's a new movie, that I'm going to critique it here on the channel and try to talk about it in some sort of intellectual way here on the channel. I want to sound like I know what I'm talking about, and I want to at least try to give a fair review of what I liked and what I didn't like. But it's always great when you watch a movie that kind of shuts your mind off and doesn't really have you thinking about the critique element of it. And I got a lot of that while watching The Woman King. There was a huge element while watching this movie where I wasn't really thinking about the fact that I was going to go home and film a review for this. And I think that just kind of stands and speaks on its own for being a strong or at least entertaining film. I did really find myself engaged engaged. And even the things that I didn't think I was going to be really crazy about by the time we got to the end of the film, I found myself more invested in. There's a romance that starts to build over the course of the film, and there was times throughout the course of the movie where I would have told myself, this is without a doubt the weakest part of the movie, and honestly, we could be cutting this romance from the narrative altogether. But by the time we got to the end, I found myself sold on said romance, and so there were a couple of other elements in this movie that definitely made me feel the same. Overall, one of the biggest praises I have to give this film is the cast. Viola Davis is fantastic as our leading performance here, and everybody else followed suit. The chemistry between these characters was so fantastic, and this woman army, the chemistry that these characters have, the history that they had was really solid. I should also mention, as a trigger warning for anybody with past trauma, this film does feature a rape sequence and does actually go back to that sequence a couple of times. There is a character in this film that does struggle with her past and rape, and that does kind of come up with the narrative later on. I don't want to get into how that plays into the story, but what I will say is I felt like I should mention it, because anytime there is a film that has some sort of rape element in there, I know that that's very tough subject matter for anybody who may have been a survivor of rape to kind of go into a movie not expecting to see it and then see it. So I just wanted to give that warning really quickly. Beyond that though, I found this to just be a really entertaining film that had great action, great choreography. The cinematography was really great. I really enjoyed the score here. It was really exciting and engaging. You have Terrence Blanchard doing the score here, and I thought overall he brought something really cool and epic and exciting. I saw people describing this film as an epic, and in a lot of ways I would agree. It's got the huge action set pieces, and what's also really great too is the setting. Outside of a couple of moments where some CG fire looks a little fake, overall this film looks stunning as well in terms of its locations, costume design, set design. Everybody in this film looks and sounds authentic for the most part, outside of a couple of moments, like I mentioned earlier, where some of the accents aren't perfect. But overall, I found myself really entertained while watching this. I think this is a movie that has a really satisfying story that you're able to be really latched onto. And again, it's always a great time to see racist, prejudiced motherfuckers getting their comeuppance in some kind of movie like this. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff too, there's definitely a satisfying element to this movie. Overall though, this is a movie that I recommend. I think this is a movie that's gonna work for a lot of people. The theater that I saw it in was applauding throughout, so you can definitely tell everybody was really excited for what was going on. I feel like this movie had a very compelling narrative from beginning to end, and it kept me engaged. I felt myself really excited to talk about it when I got home, and I hope that you guys enjoy the film. And if you didn't like the film, definitely leave a comment down below on why you didn't enjoy the film. And if you guys know more about the actual historical element of this true story that this was based on, please leave any comments down below. I'd definitely love your insight on the actual historical events of these individuals that this film covers. But with that said, a big thanks to you guys for watching. I definitely appreciate you guys stopping by. Please hit that like button, comment your thoughts, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one, all right? Bye-bye.